Dowell, I believe I get the philosophy of, getting the ball to your guys, your playmakers in space, let them turn around and use their speed. But a lot of plays at Tennessee throws short of the sticks, and then they didn't get those first downs. So how do you address that, and I guess what's kind of the philosophy of doing that?
The philosophy sometimes is make sure the ball's getting out of the hand and the quarterback's not getting hit, which you have to measure anything. Sometimes the quarterback knows what's going on inside the pocket, and he gets rid of the ball before taking a sack or allowing a bad play to happen. So there's multiple things that happen. I think all of it go back to one thing, and it's protection is most of the time what happened, or they're playing a loaded coverage and they're dropping it soft. But I think if you're talking about specifically about the Tennessee game, it's more of a protection thing.
Shane said yesterday that during the bye week, you guys went back and charted every single tackle for loss and sack to try to find causes. Is there anything you can share about that, or anything you may have learned about this team doing that process?
Yeah, we also watched every inefficient run, and there's 69 of them. So we watched them one by one, and it was a horrible bye week because it's way too many. And you start talking about third down, and because everything in football, it's a cycle. It's like, hey, we're not great on third down. Well, why are we not great on third down? Well, I think we're like 119th in third and go yardage is like third and 8+. Well, why is that? Because you have 69 inefficient runs. So like everything is why is the ball coming out so fast? Well, because you're in third and 8 and they're rushing the passer with really good pass rushers, so the ball comes out early. Those are the things, like, you can't treat symptoms, you have to treat problems. And symptoms of some of this stuff are sometimes it becomes storylines that are not the truth. But the truth is we didn't win up front last week. We didn't play well enough, or 2 weeks ago. And so we need to go back and we need to study and figure out why things are happening. And as coaches, sometimes you got to find the best way to fix the problems with your assets and resources you have. And sometimes that's change, sometimes that's schematics, sometimes it's personnel, sometimes it's as a coaching staff. Like, you have to know why it's happening. We have a better understanding of why that's happening. There will be changes into multiple areas to try to fix that and try to cover that thing up. And I've told you guys before, or the last 3 or 4 weeks, it's going to be a process. There's no overnight fix on this. There's not. There's young players playing. There are players that need to play better. There are coaches. As a coaching staff, we need to coach better. We need to clean things up. We need to make sure that we're putting our guys in the best chance to be successful. So there's a multitude of things that go into that, sacks, TFLs, but you better know why they're happening, and you better find. And sometimes there's not a great, like, there's no like, hey, there's a magic wand that fixes stuff. Sometimes it's just work and it's a process, and no one likes that, but that's the way it is sometimes. And but as a coaching staff, you need to do your best job to make sure to understand why they're happening and how we're going to clean those things up.
Dow, with so many of those young guys kind of trying to now get more reps, what from the coordinator perspective are you sort of looking for in terms of seeing that, a freshman or a transfer is ready to contribute in a more meaningful way? Yeah,
the challenge becomes what they're capable of versus what they handle. And sometimes when I hate saying it because you want to, as a coach, you protect your players, but in the NFL, what would happen is there's a guy that you love and he's smart and he does what you need him to do, but he's just good enough to get you beat. All right. And then there's guys that you're like, hey, this guy's got upside. And you know what? He's going to have to learn in the fire. There's going to be repercussions for this. There's going to be bumps along the way, but we'll be a better team long-term by doing this. And this is a decision coaches have to make, and it's hard sometimes. You have to have courage and guts to be bold and say, hey, we're going to start a true freshman at left tackle in Athens or Knoxville in an unbelievable, awesome atmosphere, and they'll be better for it. There will be bumps along the way. It will be difficult, but long term, it's what's best for the team because based on potential versus we're spinning our wheels with something else.
Dal, you mentioned resources, and I'm sure you wouldn't make excuses up, whether it be injuries or things that obviously happen, just like with every team in the country. But having said that, in terms of what your vision was for the offense, how much of that have you been able to do, and how much have you had to change because of some of these things? How much did last week maybe help out in terms of reevaluating where you guys are at?
Yeah, that's what bye weeks are great for. I mean, we're not making excuses because, my first boss ever in coaching said, you are what your record says you are, and we're 2-3. And we're a 2-3 football team. Like, no matter how you want to spit it, that's what our record is. It's frustrating. But yeah, like it's not an excuse. It's fact. It's what it's dealt with. But like, yeah, do you want Juice Wells out there? Sure. Led the SEC in receiving. Heck yeah, we'd love to have him out there. Spencer Rattler would love to have him out there. You can't double when you have two known commodities. You can't double one guy because now you got two. So it just opens up opportunities for other people. But that did happen, and we are a 2-3 football team. That's why we spent the bye week grinding through this stuff, trying to figure out what can we do to fix as a coaching staff, and what can we do sometimes to. You're not stopping the bleeding, but you got to slow it down, and you got to find ways to do that, and you got to be creative. You got to like challenge yourself, and as a coaching staff, you have to look in the mirror and say, hey, are we doing what's right? Are we doing the best thing for the team? Are we doing what we want to do? And sometimes that's the roster changes and scheme. Like there's no one's running from our problems. We know what our problems are. The bye week did help confirm, make you realize. And like as you go week to week, sometimes you don't see like the glaring thing, but like then you got to go back and say, hey, why is it happening? Is it because we're running outside zone to 3 and we don't handle the 3 well enough? Do we always need to run it to the shade? Do we are we chipping and nudging for our tackles and tight ends and backs, and we're doing those things enough? Like because you really have a chance. Like that's why everyone self-scouts so hard in the offseason, but like you have like a 4 or 5 game glimpse of during the bye of like, okay, what's happened? Why is it happening? How can we fix what? Now there's some things that we're doing really well. We throw the ball really well. We play really good red zone offense. But the things that we do a pretty good job of taking care of the football. Now it's okay. We got to stop the TFLs. We got to stop the non-efficient runs. We got to protect the quarterback better. So that was really what we studied and looked at, and we have a better idea of who we are and what we want to be. And our vision for what it was going to be is irrelevant. It's our vision for what it can be right now with what we have.
Dowell, you mentioned multiple changes maybe coming this week down the stretch. You had an opportunity to share some of those?
I'll let
changes?
Coach Beamer talk about all roster things, but there are things, there are people that you guys think should play more. There are things that we get to evaluate weekly on who should be playing, who's practicing well, and practice does matter. Like, we didn't practice well enough against Tennessee. That's why we didn't play well enough. We didn't coach well enough against Tennessee. That's why we didn't play as well as we could have. So we need to do a better job coaching, and we those personnel things get decided through the week is who's getting better, who's trending in the right direction. If a guy's ready to play, we're going to put him in and play him. And if a guy's not, then we're going to continue to work him in until the point where it's time to let him loose. We've proved that we're starting 2 freshmen on the offensive line. Like, we aren't scared to play young people here if they're ready and it's their time. So we're going to continue to evaluate things, and it's the old saying, every day's an interview. As a player, you better feel that when you come in. Like, we love each one of them, and we care about them, and we want them to do well in school and do well life after football. But we're also trying to win football games right now, so every day is an interview. So how you practice determines how much you get to play.
And with now 5 games under your belt as a coordinator and film out there, have you noticed any big changes in how teams maybe defend you or this team?
No, I think that people try to take away 17, and they know that 7's a really good player. And most of people's plan, Tennessee's plan was, hey, let's see if we can take away 17 and see if these guys can run the football versus a light box, and see if they can beat us up front.
With the inefficient runs, I'm sure there's probably been a mix of, missed blocks up front or running back, making whatever mistake. How challenging has it been for y'all to evaluate what you have at the running back position when it seems like maybe a lot of times some of those runs might be caused by, a guy getting knocked back up front? Or
yeah, it's a challenge because it takes 11 guys doing their job to have an efficient run, which is first down, it's a 4-yard run. On second down, it's a 4-yard run. On third down, you're getting at least half, or the third and ones and fourth and ones you're converting on. The challenge becomes when we're rotating offensive linemen like we are, like guys playing together. And now getting those guys to play together and get used to combinations and making sure their combination blocks there is an element of the longer you play with someone, like your combinations, like when I say combinations, like when 2 guys are working together, that they're not loose, or when you say, hey, it's foot to foot, hip to hip, and that's how we're doubling guys. Like, they need to play together and they need to experience that stuff. So there's definitely challenges to both aspects for the offensive line and the running back, but it's the advantage of by doing that study is you get to go through and say, hey, this is what we need to work on. And then you get to, as a coach, you get to say, hey, look, we can go clean this up in individual. And it may not be perfect this week, and it may not be perfect next week, but if you're making strides to get better and you're getting better with that stuff, then that's what's important. It's not, it's not going to be overnight. And it's for the running backs, it's definitely a challenge of when technique's not sound, or part of it's on them as well, making sure their eyes are on the right spot, they're making the right cuts. So it's 11 guys on offense. It really is. Like, I wish you could say, hey, if we could change this one thing, then we would have no inefficient runs. But it's 11 guys playing better football and more fundamentally sound football more so than anything. It's not necessarily a personnel thing. It's being more fundamentally sound.
What type of strides are you making to make this team get better every day?
What kind of strides are we making? Well, I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to, like, you want to reword the question? Like, what are you looking for when you ask that question? Like, what kind of strides are we making?
Like practice-wise?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to take what we feel like we need this week, what we've studied over the bye week on things that are weaknesses, and then you tie those with the techniques that you might need versus this defense, and then that's what individuals about. And really, that's what individuals should be the hardest part of practice. And so your technique, because it's technique that makes the play go. It's not the scheme all the time. It's like, how well are we blocking inside zone? How well are we blocking outside zone? How is our pass protection? And then you break that down into, it's like whole part whole. It's like, hey, okay, how are we handling our man reaches? Well, we need to work on those because we're going to face it this week. Or, hey, we need to work on B blocks, which is a backside combination with a guard and a center, or a C block, which is a backside combination with a tackle and a tight end. And you take those things of what you need that week, or that for that game plan, and you work that stuff in individual, and that's how you measure strides. Does your teaching go to the field? Can they take their meeting to the individual, to the field, to Saturday? And that's how every coach is evaluated. Is your group performing to the best of the ability? Each position group, are they performing to the best of their ability? And that's how, as coaches, we measure. Like, is Spencer Rattler doing the things that we emphasize, and is he continuing to get better? And is he playing the best? Is his performance match individual, and is he playing to be the best player he can be? And that's what each position coach and it does on this team. And that's how you should be graded. And that's how you can measure strides. Is our group playing the best it can be? And last week as a quarterback group, we weren't that. And that starts with me.
So with some of the short yardage running, we saw Juju get a few more of those carries than he had earlier in the year. What's the thought process behind that, and what do you look for in a short yardage running back?
Yeah, and sometimes it's more situational. That was I think the short yardage play you're referring to, it wasn't like, hey, we're scheming Juju for this third down. It was a tempo play that we went to that Juju happened to be on in that series of the game. Coach Hardesty controls the subs and how he's going to play his running backs. And then so it wasn't a design like, hey, this is our 3rd and 1. This is our short yardage situation. It happened to be his series in the rotation. That wasn't like, hey, we're going to get 0 in more in short yardage. Like, that wasn't the thought process.
With the inefficient and efficient run stuff, you said so 1st and 2nd down are 4 more yards.
Yeah.
And what was the 3rd down?
Third down is if it's 3rd and 1, it has to be a conversion. If it's 3rd and 7, most time when people run the ball on 3rd and 7, they're trying to create a 4th down situation. So do you get half the yardage, back to put yourself in an advantageous situation to go for? When you guys are watching college and NFL games, it happens in college football a lot more. Like in the NFL, people don't they very seldomly throw the football on 3rd down and 2 to 3 plus. Like, it's all passing. College football, people run the ball a lot more. I mean, there's a lot of under center runs. I'm watching Utah and Florida play, and like they're under center on 3rd and 4, handing the ball off. And my background, I'm sitting there like 3rd and 4. Like, what if you don't get it? Like, I'm throwing a pass. Like, to be completely honest, but like those are like, so sometimes when you see those, hey, someone calls a run on 3rd and 7, they're not trying to get that. Like, they're not in their mind. They're not saying like, hey, we're going to pop this run for 8 yards on 3rd and 7. It's like, hey, let's get it into 3rd manageable, or 4th down. We're going to go for it on 4th down. So let's get into 4th and manageable. So you really want to get half the distance right there. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.